The viewport of Kepler station offered nothing but the cold beauty of distant stars and the grey, lifeless surface of Zarian 7 below. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the reinforced glass, watching her breath fog the surface as the station's atmospheric processes hummed quietly in the background. 3 months of deep space travel had brought her to this remote research outpost, and she was finally here to begin the most important project of her career. Dr. Vasquez? The voice came from behind her, mechanical, processed through a universal translator, but carrying an oddly musical quality beneath the electronic distortion. Elena turned to see a figure in a full environmental suit approaching. The suit was sleek and form-fitting, clearly advanced technology, but completely opaque. No hint of the being inside was visible through the dark faceplate. "That's me," Elena replied, offering her hand in greeting. "You must be Thyra. I've read your preliminary reports on the Zerion linguistic fragments. Absolutely fascinating work." The suited figure, Thyra, paused for a moment before extending her own hand. Even through the suit's gloves, Elena could sense a certain hesitation, as if physical contact was unfamiliar or uncomfortable. "Your reputation precedes you, Dr. Vasquez. Your work on the Centauri dialects was illuminating." Thyra's translated voice carried no emotion, but Elena thought she detected something beneath the mechanical tones, perhaps surprise or curiosity. "Please call me Elena. We'll be working closely together for the next few months." Elena gestured toward the research lab, visible through a nearby corridor. "Should we start with a tour of your setup?" As they walked through the station's narrow corridors, Elena found herself studying her new partner. Thyra moved with fluid grace, despite the bulky suit, her steps silent on the metal flooring. She was tall, nearly a head taller than Elena's own 5'6" frame, and her posture suggested both strength and a strange kind of wariness. The research lab was impressive, holographic displays showing 3-dimensional reconstructions of ancient Zerion texts, quantum computers processing linguistic patterns, and carefully preserved artifact fragments under specialized containment fields. "This is remarkable," Elena breathed, moving closer to examine a particularly intricate piece of carved stone. "The syntax patterns here suggest a completely unique grammatical structure. How long have you been working on this?" 2 years, Thyra replied, staying several feet away. "The Zerion civilization died out nearly 10,000 years ago, but their written language shows signs of evolution right up until the end. Something catastrophic happened here." Eleanor looked up from the artifact. "And you think their final communications might tell us what?" There was a long pause. Through the suit's faceplate, Elena could see nothing, but she sensed that Thyra was studying her carefully. "Perhaps the final inscriptions are personal, emotional, not the formal records we've found elsewhere." Thyra's voice softened slightly, the translator somehow conveying a hint of vulnerability. "Understanding them requires more than linguistic analysis. It requires empathy. Then it's a good thing they sent someone who specializes in emotional context in dead languages," Elena said with a warm smile. "I may not look like much, but I've spent my career learning to hear the hearts behind ancient words for the first time." Thyra stepped closer. "You are not what I expected from a human researcher." "What were you expecting?" Another pause. "Someone less kind." Eleanor felt a pang of sadness at those words. Whatever Thyra's experiences had been with other species, they had clearly left her expecting rejection or coldness. As Eleanor looked at the mysterious figure before her, she made a silent promise to prove those expectations wrong. 3 weeks into their collaboration, Elena had developed a routine that centered around the small mysteries of her enigmatic partner. Each morning, She would arrive at the lab to find Thyra already there, working in perfect silence, except for the soft, melodic humming that seemed to emerge unconsciously when she was deeply focused. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, even filtered through her suit's audio systems. "Good morning, Thyra," Elena would say, and always received the same polite, mechanical response. But lately, she noticed Thyra's posture would relax slightly. When she entered, her movements becoming less rigid. Today, Elena carried 2 steaming cups of Altarian tea, a blend she discovered Thyra had mentioned in passing during one of their technical discussions. She set one near Thyra's workstation without comment, taking her own to the holographic display where yesterday's breakthrough awaited her attention. "You brought me tea," Thyra observed, her translator giving the words a questioning inflection. "You mentioned you missed the flavor profiles of your homeworld beverages. This has similar mineral notes." Elena kept her tone casual, not wanting to make a big gesture of the small kindness. Through her peripheral vision, Elena watched as Thyra carefully activated her suit's feeding port and took a tentative sip. The humming that followed was different, softer, more contemplative. "This is very thoughtful," Thyra said quietly. "Thank you." As the days passed, their conversations evolved beyond pure academic discourse. Elena learned that Thyra had been studying xenolinguistics for over 2 decades, that she found deep satisfaction in uncovering the emotional truths hidden in ancient texts, and that she had specifically requested this isolated assignment. "Why Kepler Station?" Elena asked one afternoon as they worked side by side, translating a particularly complex passage about Xerian family structures. "With your expertise, you could have your pick of prestigious research positions." Thyra's hands stilled over her equipment. "Isolation suits me. I find I work better without distractions." "What kind of distractions?" The pause stretched longer this time. Other people's reactions to my presence. Elena felt her heart clench at the matter-of-fact way Thyra delivered this information. She set down her stylus and turned to face her partner fully. "Their loss," she said simply. "You do not know what you are saying. I know enough." Elena's voice was firm but gentle. "I know you have the most brilliant mind for linguistic analysis I've ever encountered. I know you handle 1,000-year-old artifacts with the care most people reserve for newborn children. I know you hum when you're happy, and it's the most beautiful sound I've heard in years." The silence that followed was so complete that Elena worried she had overstepped some invisible boundary. But then Thyra's helmet turned slightly, as if she were studying Elena from a new angle. "You are a very unusual human, Elena Vasquez." "So I've been told." Elena smiled, usually not as a compliment. It was meant as one. That evening, for the first time since Elena's arrival, Thyra lingered in the lab after their official work hours. They shared a simple meal, protein rations that Elena had somehow made more palatable with spices from her personal supplies, and talked about everything except work. Thyra spoke about the poetry of her homeworld, about the mathematical beauty she found in language patterns, about her childhood fascination with ancient civilizations. Elena shared stories of her travels, the loneliness of being one of the few humans who chose to work primarily with alien cultures, and her belief that understanding each other's languages was the first step toward understanding each other's hearts. "I have never," Thyra began, then stopped herself. "Never what?" "Never had a colleague who seemed genuinely interested in me as a person rather than as a research resource." Elena set down her cup and leaned forward slightly. "Thyra, I hope you know that you're more than a colleague to me. You're becoming a friend." The environmental suit's faceplate reflected the lab's soft lighting, giving away nothing of Thyra's expression. But her voice, when it came, carried a warmth that the translator couldn't quite mask. "I would like that very much, Elena, more than you might realize." As they sat together in the gentle hum of the station's life support systems, Elena felt something shifting between them, a barrier dissolving, a connection forming that went deeper than professional respect. She found herself wondering what lay beneath that concealing suit, not just physically, but emotionally. What dreams, what fears, what hopes did Thyra carry? For the first time since beginning this assignment, Elena realized that her most important discovery might not be about ancient Xerion civilization at all. The power fluctuation hit Kepler station at 23:47 station time during one of Elena and Thyra's increasingly common late-night research sessions. The main lights flickered and died, replaced by the eerie red glow of emergency illumination. The environmental systems continued running, but at reduced capacity, just a solar storm interference, Elena said, checking her tablet. Backup power should restore full systems in about an hour, but across the lab, Thyra had gone completely still. Her suit's status lights were blinking amber, and Elena could hear the faint hiss of escaping atmosphere from the environmental system. "Thyra, are you all right?" "Suit breach," Thyra replied, her voice tight with something that might have been panic. "The power surge damaged my life support coupling. I need to—" She moved toward the emergency supply lockers, but her movements were becoming sluggish. Elena was at her side in an instant. "What do you need me to do?" "The emergency atmosphere masks are in locker 7. I have to remove my helmet to breathe station air until I can repair the coupling." Even in the dim lighting, Elena could see Thyra's reluctance. Her hands hovered near her helmet seals, but didn't activate them. "Thyra, if you need to breathe, then breathe. It's just us here. You do not understand." Thyra's voice was barely a whisper through the failing speaker system. "My species, we are not pleasant to look upon. I have spent years ensuring that others never have to see." Elena stepped closer, her hand finding Thyra's armored shoulder. "Look at me. Do you trust me?" A pause, then very quietly, "Yes." "Then trust me now. Remove your helmet." With trembling hands, Thyra reached for the helmet seals. There was a soft hiss as the locks disengaged, and then she was lifting the helmet away from her head for the first time in Elena's presence. Elena's breath caught, but not from revulsion or fear. Thyra was beautiful. Her features were elegant and aristocratic, with high cheekbones and a graceful jawline. Her skin was covered in small, iridescent scales that caught the emergency lighting like scattered jewels, creating patterns of deep emerald and gold across her face and neck. Her eyes were large and luminous, a warm amber color that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Her hair, if it could be called hair, was a cascade of fine, silvery tendrils that moved like liquid metal around her shoulders. But it was the expression on her face that truly took Elena's breath away. Thyra was looking at her with such vulnerable hope, such desperate fear of rejection, that Elena felt her heart break a little. "You look," Elena began, then paused, choosing her words carefully. "You look beautiful." Thyra's amber eyes widened, in shock. "You are not afraid." "Afraid?" Elena stepped closer, really looking at her partner for the first time. "Thyra, you're absolutely stunning. Why would I be afraid?" "Because that is how everyone reacts to the Scarran. We are the nightmare species, the bogeymen that parents use to frighten children. Our appearance has made us pariahs across the galaxy." Elena reached out slowly, telegraphing her movement so Thyra could pull away if she wanted. When Thyra didn't move, Elena gently touched her scaled cheek. The scales were warm and surprisingly soft, like polished silk. "Then everyone else is an idiot," Elena said firmly. "You are one of the most beautiful beings I have ever seen." Thyra's eyes filled with what Elena realized were tears, crystalline drops that caught the light like diamonds. "No one has ever Then no one has ever really looked at you. Elena's thumb brushed away one of the tears, marveling at how the simple gesture seemed to undo years of Thyra's careful emotional armor. I see you, Thyra, all of you, and you are magnificent. For a long moment, they stood together in the emergency lighting, Elena's hand still cupping Thyra's face, both of them breathing the same recycled air. The broken helmet lay forgotten on the floor between them. I had not dared to hope, Thyra whispered, her voice no longer filtered through mechanical translation, but rich and melodic in its natural form, that anyone could see past what I am to who I am. You're not something to see past, Elena replied softly. You're someone to see completely, and I'd like very much to keep seeing you if you'll let me. Thyra's smile was radiant, transforming her already beautiful features into something that took Elena's breath away entirely. I would like that more than anything, Thyra said, her natural voice carrying harmonics that no human throat could produce. More than anything in all the worlds. The days following Thyra's revelation transformed their partnership into something deeper and more intimate than either had expected. Thyra no longer wore her helmet in the lab, and Elena found herself constantly distracted by the play of light. Across her companion's iridescent scales, the graceful way she moved, the melodic quality of her unfiltered voice. You're staring again, Thyra observed one morning, not looking up from the ancient tablet she was translating. But Elena could see the pleased curve of her lips. Can you blame me? Elena replied, not bothering to deny it. I'm still getting used to actually seeing you. They had established new routines, shared meals where they sat closer together, their knees occasionally brushing, extended conversations that wandered far from academic topics into personal territory. Elena learned that Thyra had a gift for music, that she composed poetry in her native tongue, that she had never had a friend who wasn't another Skaran researcher working in similar isolation. Tell me about your homeworld, Elena said one evening as they watched Zarian 7's 3 moons rise over the planet's desolate horizon. Thyra was quiet for a long moment, her amber eyes reflecting the moonlight. It is a world of deep forests and crystal caverns. The trees sing when the wind passes through them, a harmony that inspired our earliest musical traditions. But it has been lonely there in recent generations. Many of my people have chosen isolation over the constant rejection we face among other species. Elena shifted closer to her on the observation deck's bench. That's their loss. Any species that can't see past surface differences to appreciate intelligence, kindness, and beauty is missing out on knowing some remarkable individuals. Thyra turned to look at her, those luminous eyes searching Elena's face. You truly mean that? Every word. Elena reached out to touch Thyra's hand, marveling at how natural the gesture had become. Thyra's skin was always warm, and the scales created interesting textures under Elena's fingertips. The touch lingered longer than it had in previous days. Elena noticed how Thyra's breathing changed slightly, how her scales seemed to shimmer more brightly in the low light. Elena, Thyra said softly, her voice carrying a note Elena hadn't heard before. I must tell you something. What is it? Among my people, touch is significant. We do not casually make physical contact with others. When we do, it carries meaning. Elena's heart began to beat faster. What kind of meaning? Affection, attraction, the desire for deeper connection. Thyra's eyes never left Elena's face. Every time you touch me, every gentle gesture, my body responds as if you were courting me. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. And how do you feel about that? Thyra's free hand came up to cup Elena's face, her scaled palm warm against human skin, like I have been waiting my entire life for someone to court me exactly this way. The kiss, when it came, was soft and hesitant at first. Elena had wondered if their different physiology would make intimacy awkward, but instead it felt like the most natural thing in the universe. Thyra's lips were softer than expected, and when Elena deepened the kiss, she discovered that Thyra tasted faintly of honey and starlight. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing harder. Thyra's scales had taken on an even more brilliant sheen, and Elena realized she was seeing what might be the Scarran equivalent of blushing. "Was that?" Thyra began uncertainly. "Perfect," Elena finished, her thumb tracing the elegant line of Thyra's jaw. "Absolutely perfect." They spent the rest of the evening curled together on the observation deck, sharing stories and soft kisses under the alien stars. Elena learned that Thyra's scales were most sensitive along her neck and shoulders, that her natural body temperature ran higher than human normal, and that when she was happy or aroused, those scales took on an almost luminescent quality. "I never imagined," Thyra murmured against Elena's hair, "that I could feel this way about someone, that someone could feel this way about me." Elena tilted her head to meet Thyra's gaze. "You're not just someone to me, Thyra. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for." Later, as they reluctantly parted to go to their separate quarters, Elena found herself lying awake, thinking about the woman she was falling in love with. Because that's what this was, she realized. Love. Deep, transformative, overwhelming love. For a being whose beauty went far beyond her striking physical appearance, to encompass her brilliant mind, her gentle heart, and her capacity for wonder. The next morning, Elena woke with the absolute certainty that she wanted to explore every aspect of this connection, to discover all the ways two very different species could find harmony together. And from the way Thyra smiled when she saw her, scales gleaming, eyes bright with affection and anticipation, Elena suspected the feeling was entirely mutual. The weeks that followed blurred together in a haze of professional collaboration and personal intimacy. Elena and Thyra completed their translation of the final Xerian texts, uncovering a tragic love story between two individuals from different castes whose relationship had been forbidden by their society's rigid structures. The parallel to their own situation wasn't lost on either of them. "They chose love over acceptance," Thyra observed one night as they reviewed their final report, "even knowing it would lead to exile." "Would you make the same choice?" Elena asked quietly. Thyra set down her tablet and turned to face Elena fully. In the months since she'd first removed her helmet, she had grown more comfortable with casual physical affection, and now she reached out to take Elena's hands in her own. "I already have," she said simply. "The moment I decided to trust you. With my true face, I chose love over the safety of isolation." Their relationship had deepened in ways Elena had never experienced before. They had learned each other's bodies with patience and wonder, discovering that passion could bridge any physiological differences. Thyra's scales were incredibly sensitive to touch, and she could make sounds of pleasure that harmonized with Elena's own voice in ways that seemed almost musical. Their lovemaking was tender and intense, filled with whispered words in two languages, and the kind of complete trust that came from truly seeing and accepting each other. But their happiness existed in a bubble that would soon be tested. Their research assignment was ending, and Station Command had begun making noises about new postings for both of them. "Dr. Vasquez," Commander Hayes said during Elena's final briefing, "your work here has been exemplary. We have 3 different universities requesting you for high-profile positions, and there's a survey ship leaving for the Andromeda Relay next month that could use your expertise." Elena nodded politely, but her heart was sinking. "And Thyra? Dr. Thyra Cahill, what are her options?" Hayes's expression grew uncomfortable. "The Scarran researcher has requested extended assignment here at Kepler Station. Apparently, she prefers isolation." That evening, Eleanor found Thyra on the observation deck, where they had shared their first kiss. The Skaran woman was staring out at the stars with an expression of profound sadness. "You requested to stay here," Eleanor said, settling beside her. "I cannot ask you to sacrifice your career for someone like me," Thyra replied without looking at her. "Your species values advancement exploration. You should not be trapped on a remote station because of an inappropriate attachment to—" Elena silenced her with a kiss, fierce and demanding. When they broke apart, Thyra's eyes were wide with surprise. "Don't you dare," Elena said firmly, "call what we have inappropriate. Don't you dare suggest that loving you could ever be a trap. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, and I'll be damned if I let anyone, including you, convince me otherwise. Elena, be reasonable. The galaxy is not ready for relationships like ours. My people are feared, avoided. If you stay with me, you will face the same prejudice. Then we'll face it together." Elena cupped Thyra's face in her hands, looking directly into those luminous amber eyes. "I love you, Thyra Kyle, not despite what you are, not because I can see past your appearance, but because of all of you. Your brilliant mind, your gentle heart, your incredible capacity for beauty and wonder. I love the way you hum when you work, the way your scales light up when you're happy, the way you see poetry in ancient languages. I love you completely, and I choose you over any career, any advancement, any acceptance from people too small-minded to see what I see." Tears were flowing freely down Thyra's scaled cheeks now. "You would give up everything?" "I'm not giving up anything. I'm gaining everything that matters." Elena wiped away Thyra's tears with her thumbs. "Besides, who says we have to choose? We're both brilliant researchers. We can write our own ticket, set our own terms. Any institution would be lucky to have us." The next morning, Elena marched into Commander Hayes's office with a proposal that left him speechless. She wanted to establish a new xenolinguistic research institute, one that specialized in cross-species collaboration and understanding. She and Thyra would co-direct it, taking on projects that required their unique combined expertise. "The funding alone would be astronomical," Hayes protested. "3 universities want me," Elena reminded him. "And the Skaran Science Council has been trying to recruit Thyra for years. I'm betting they'll fund us just to keep us working together." She was right. Within a week, they had preliminary approval for the Institute for Interspecies Communication, with guaranteed funding for the next 5 years and requests for proposals already pouring in. On their last night at Kepler Station, Elena and Thyra made love with desperate intensity, celebrating not just their physical connection, but their emotional triumph. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Thyra traced lazy patterns on Elena's skin with her scaled fingertips. "I never believed I could have this," she whispered. "Love, acceptance, a future with someone who sees me as beautiful." "You can have all of that and more," Elena replied, pressing a kiss to Thyra's forehead. "You deserve all of that and more." As they prepared to leave for their new life together, Elena reflected on how much had changed since she first arrived. At this remote station, she had come here to study an ancient civilization, but instead she had found something far more valuable. A love that transcended species, a partnership that would challenge the galaxy's prejudices, and proof that beauty and connection could flourish in the most unexpected places. The stars outside their viewport looked different now, not cold and distant, but full of possibility. Together, she and Thyra would explore those possibilities, building bridges between worlds and hearts, one word, one touch, one moment of understanding. At a time, their love story was just beginning, and Elena couldn't wait to see where it would take them among the stars. Sonnet 4,